"I need to watch this," President Obama said as he entered the Situation Room. "No, you stay right there. I'll just pull up a chair next to you," he said as he sat down by Brigadier General Marshall Webb. Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and Vice President Joe Biden were already in the room. It was after midnight in Pakistan, and 24 Special Forces operatives had entered Osama bin Laden's hidden compound as part of Operation Neptune's Spear. By the time the president had entered the room, one of the 2 Navy SEAL helicopters had already crash-landed. Obama would later tell CNN's Peter Bergen, "I was thinking that this is not an ideal start." However, at 4:05 p.m. on May 1st, 2011, the National Security Team got word that Osama bin Laden, leader of al-Qaeda, had been killed, marking an end to the painstaking search that had begun long before the attacks of September 11th, 2001. The photo was called Situation Room by White House photographer Pete Souza, who was also the White House photographer during the Reagan administration. The Situation Room has become an iconic image, talked about, discussed, analyzed, and not just for being emblematic to presidential decision-making. One of the first things you'll notice is the Situation Room appears rather too small to be housing this group of people. The majority of the time, the president convenes meetings in a large conference room with assigned seats, but the decision was made to move to the much smaller conference room because of fears of losing the feed from Pakistan. The military and civilian officials squeezed into this tight room shoulder to shoulder as the operation played out. You'll also notice the lack of suit jackets. After all, it was on a Sunday. It's a different look for such people to be known as powerful individuals. It has a lack of swagger. There's almost a lack of officialness to be had. It gives the sense that everyone was at the end of having a very long, tired day. Also, the president is not at the head of the table. He's sitting next to Brigadier General Brad Webb, who is point man for the communications taking place. Because of this, the President of the United States appears only as a spectator and not putting on the persona as the one in charge. What you're seeing is a room full of powerful people who make important decisions on a daily basis. These people are known to be in control, but in this instance, they are helpless. They are simply watching and waiting as the events unfold. According to reporter Peter Bergen, the group was watching a live feed from an unmanned drone flying overhead. However, they were unable to actually see or hear anything at all. There was no communication coming back, so they remained focused while trying to remain calm and hopeful. This was all the while being aware of other historic presidential moments that didn't go according to plan. For example, President Jimmy Carter's failed rescue mission to free hostages in Iran. Photographer Peter Souza recounted how, for 40 minutes we were in that room. You could just sort of feel the anxiety and the tension knowing how risky that raid was. One helicopter had already crashed and they didn't even know 100% if bin Laden was even in there. The photo by Souza, who took the shot from a cramped corner in the room, was taken only minutes before the official word came in that bin Laden had been located, eliminated, and removed from the compound, along with several pieces of evidence and computers. After identifying his body, the military brought him aboard the USS Carl Vinson and buried him in the northern Arabian Sea the same day. Many have asked why he was buried at sea. The U.S. took political, religious, and practical factors into consideration when deciding what to do with bin Laden's body. If he was buried on land, his grave could become a shrine for his followers. There was also Islamic funeral practices to observe, including the custom of burying a body within 24 hours of a person's death. The subject of bin Laden's funeral preparation and burial is another topic completely. More on subject is that of the photos of bin Laden's body, the proof of his death, and whether they should be released to the public. In an interview with 60 Minutes on CBS, President Obama explained his decision to not release the photos. Quote, "It's important for us to make sure that very graphic photos of somebody who was shot in the head are not floating around as an incitement to additional violence or as a propaganda tool," he said. Continuing, That's not who we are. We don't trot out this stuff as trophies. This is, of course, contrary to the handling of Saddam Hussein's two sons in 2003. Such a historical moment means a different approach to photography. Souza said, "I totally consider the role as documenting the presidency for history, unlike working in a newspaper where your concern is what's the best picture for tomorrow." The photo has been noted for its intensity and even studied by body language analysts. Hillary Clinton, seen with her hand over her mouth, said it was the most intense 38 minutes of her life. In front of Clinton is a photographic document that has been blurred for national security reasons. Obama, seen hunched over and intently focused, commented that it may have been the longest 40 minutes of his own life, possibly excepting when his daughter had meningitis as an infant. The photo not only bears significance from the change in look and style of presidential decision-making, but it's also been talked about in regards to the elevated role of women in governmental positions of power. This photo, which features Hillary Clinton and Audrey Thomason, the director of counterterrorism for the National Security Council, could be compared to the iconic photo of John F. Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis, which features no women at all. This isn't a critique of the JFK administration, just an example of how times have changed. Furthermore, on the subject of women, the photograph has been a point of controversy for some in the Haredi community. The Journal, a newspaper from Brooklyn, actually edited out the images for Clinton and Thomason due to its policy of not running photographs with women due to their modesty laws. The newspaper later apologized for it, but another Hasidic magazine from Brooklyn, The Week, also edited out the women as well. It should be noted that it is common practice for Haredi newspapers to edit out images of women in photographs. In his statement from the Journal, it's because of modesty reasons and should in no way be seen as degrading of women. Phrase it however you want, it's still a purposeful alteration of history, but the image as it stands will always be remembered in its unaltered form. That being said, we don't see CIA Director Leon Panetta, who brought the first news of Bin Laden's compound 8 months earlier. We also don't see Vice Admiral William McRaven, the head of Joint Special Operations Command. He was in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, supervising the SEAL team's mission from there. Still, the image captures a defining moment in history, offering a rare glimpse to who the key White House players were and what they might be thinking as they waited to hear the words Geronimo, Bin Laden's codename, EKIA, enemy killed in action. All 23 SEALs were unharmed in the raid, and the terrorist leader behind the September 11th attacks on the U.S. was killed.